Rakugo, a form of Japanese entertainment in which the person sits down and with only using a paper fan and small claws as props, they tell a story by depicting the conversations and making the audience laugh by the interactions of the characters. With something as unique and peculiar as Rakugo, you would think that it wouldn't be used to tell an overarching story and definitely not in Shonen Jump manga of all things, right? Wrong. Akane Banashi, written by Yuki Suenaga, art by Takamasa Moe, and supervised by Rakugo Keiki Hayashiya, is a story about a young girl named Akane who is striving to become a master Rakugoka years after her father failed to become one. Akane Banashi thrusts you into the world of Rakugo and wastes absolutely no time to get you accustomed with how it works and how it will be presented. Rakugo focuses on human interaction and conversation, and it is solely on the Rakugoka's shoulders to manage all of that on their own while making the audience laugh. Then there's also ranks: Sensu, the training period for Rakugoka; Futatsume, the period in which Rakugoka hone their skills; and lastly Chinochi, the pinnacle of the Rakugo world. Coming into the story, I was very intrigued to see how the series would approach Rakugo and use it as a vehicle to tell its story. And without a single doubt in my mind, I can definitely say that Akane Banashi succeeds with flying colors. The performances are given life as we get a look into the stories as if we're actually watching it unfold, when in reality, the characters are the ones telling them. The series takes advantage of the medium that is manga and can go from slow and methodical to fast-paced and chaotic in the snap of a finger. With how Rakugo is portrayed, it immerses you entirely and feels as if you're a part of the audience watching the performances of real Rakugoka. Akane Banashi being able to use Rakugo and succeed at portraying it in the medium that is manga is nothing short of an achievement. The story of Akane Banashi is simple yet very nuanced at the same time. The story begins with Shinta, Akane's dad, trying to become a Chinoji. A young Akane was proud of her dad for his love of Rakugo and even got into fights in school for it. Shinta, being a Futatsume, was one step away to being a Chinoji, a final test that decides whether he will be promoted to Chinoji or not. From Shinta's family and his sensei Shiguma are present, but the one who decides if he passes or not will be none other than Issho Arakawa, one of the greatest Rakugoka of his generation. Shinta begins his performance with the Makura, which is the prelude to the main story. However, he feels the pressure and tension from Issho as he then begins to rush to get to the story. He hears Akane from the audience knees mimicking him as he then thinks back to a conversation he had with Masaki, talking about how Akane spies on him when he practices his performances. She tells him that he needs to be cool and capable in front of Akane as her father. After this, his demeanor changes entirely and gives an amazing performance. Afterwards, Issho with a microphone gives his thanks to everyone for coming, and without wasting any time, he says that every person that performed is expelled from the school. He apologizes to the audience for what he claims to be a travesty and leaves without explaining his reasoning. Sometime later, Akane meets Shiguma and asks him if she could be his pupil. She's frustrated at the fact that her father was unable to achieve his dream while everyone says that it was for the best. She loved his Rakugo and said that it was magic. It hurt her seeing everyone smiling at him for doing something else while she had to accept that she'll never see him perform again. She devotes herself to become a Chinoji and prove that her dad's Rakugo was great. Since then, she trained with Shiguma from elementary school to high school on a mission to accomplish what her father couldn't. All of what I just mentioned is in the first 2 chapters. The story proceeds to focus on Akane as she improves her craft with Sensei Shiguma and his pupils throughout the story. What Akane Banashi impressed me the most is how compelling and enjoyable Akane's journey to better herself as a Rakugoka truly is. The trials that she goes through has her learn lessons that can be applied to the art of Rakugo, which in turn gives you a different look on Rakugo as a reader who may not know much about it. Characters like Kyoji and Kogama give her guidance and insight on certain aspects in life that apply perfectly in Rakugo, like always thinking about the other person's wants and learning how things work from all angles. Usually stories that focus on performing arts go on to tell their stories by dramatizing the industry, conflicts that go beyond performing itself, and so on. Akane Banashi's main conflict, however, stems from a difference in opinion on how a Rakugo performance should be. Because of that, Akane's growth as a Rakugoka feels important. It makes you care for every single step forward she takes, no matter how minuscule it may be. Then there's the antagonist of the series, Issho Arakawa. the one responsible for setting the story in motion. One thing that had me extremely worried as I was reading the series was his explanation as to why he expelled Akane's dad. I felt that his reasoning wasn't going to match the punishment, somewhat downgrading his character for me. However, not only his reasoning as to why he did it was understandable from his perspective, I couldn't help but agree with his views surrounding Rakugo even though his actions were extremely rash that day. Issho Arakawa as an antagonist so far in the story has me absolutely impressed with how layered his character and conviction truly is. I definitely can't wait to see more from him as the series progresses and get the final showdown between Issho and Akane whenever that happens. Akane Banashi has been a roller coaster of emotions for me, and the fact that a series that doesn't have your typical shonen action and tropes has been able to make me emotional while reading it was an absolute shock to me. This series from top to bottom is just simply beautiful, man. But what shocked me the most about the series is the fact that it's being serialized in the weekly Shonen Jump magazine out of all magazines out there. Seeing how weekly Shonen Jump likes to keep the magazine consistent with certain types of series, it's honestly incredible how a series like Akane Banashi has not only been able to stay afloat with big titles from the likes of Jujutsu Kaisen, Black Clover, and One Piece, but also thrive and have a dedicated fan base of its own. This has not only opened doors for other potential series like this in the weekly Shonen Jump magazine, but it also has given plenty of eyes to a form of entertainment that is part of Japanese culture. For this series to be compelling as it is and break the mold of what you would find on the magazine while also carrying something as culturally significant like Rakugo has my absolute respect. If this video hasn't sold you on Akane Banashi enough, this series is absolutely incredible, is extremely enjoyable, and if you haven't read a singular chapter, please for the love of God read it. You will not regret reading all of the 48 chapters that are currently out. If anything, by the time you're caught up, you will want more. And with that, hope you guys have a wonderful rest of the day wherever you are. See you guys next time.